Hi you guys, I just wanted to make you this video to help you with your quiz from yesterday. So the last 3 questions on the quiz were review questions. They were questions that you took a previous quiz on, and a lot of you missed these. And so I'm going to first start by going over those 3 questions, and then I'm going to do a few other questions, and then I will have you do a retake. Okay, so question number 1. What I want you to recognize when you look at question number 1 is inside our parentheses, we have a -3 times by a to the 4th times by w times by y to the 3rd. Okay, so we would consider these all factors of a product. All of these are being multiplied together. And then all of this product is being raised to the second power. So when you look at this, you need to realize that the exponent for the -3 is a 1. And when you do the power of a power rule, you multiply the exponents. Okay, so what we need to do here is we need to do -3 raised to the first power, or to the first power, and then raised to the second power is going to be -3 to the 1 times 2, which is 2. Okay? And then we have the a to the 4th. So a to the 4th raised to the second, we would do 4 times the 2, and that's going to be a to the 8th. And then we have this w here. This is really w to the first. So when we do w to the first raised to the second, we get w to the second. And then y to the 3rd raised to the second is y to the 6th. Okay. Now, when we do our final answer here, we need to realize that -3 to the second power is -3 times by a -3, and that is a +9. Okay, so this should be 9a to the 8th, w to the second, y to the 6th. Okay. Now, on the next one, what I want you to recognize is that you have an x times y raised to the 3rd power, and then you have an x to the 3rd, a y to the 1st, raised to the 2nd power. So we need to think about this as x to the 1st, and this is y to the 1st. So we're going to apply the power of a product rule. So this power right here, this 3, has to be distributed. So we're going to do x to the 1 times 3, which is 3. And then y to the 1 times 3, which is y to the 3. Okay, so this right here, xy to the 3rd power, becomes x to the 3rd, y to the 3rd. Okay, now let's do the second set of parentheses, and let's do that same thing. So x to the 3rd raised to the 2nd is going to be x to the 3 times 2, which is 6. And then y to the 1st raised to the 2nd is going to be y to the 1 times 2, which is 2. Okay, all of these are now being multiplied together. So I'm just going to rearrange the order so that we have like bases together. Okay, now when you multiply like bases, you need to add the exponents. X to the 3rd looks like this, and x to the 6th looks like this. So this right here is really x to the 9th. Okay, so when you do x to the 3rd and you multiply by x to the 6th, you get x to the 9th. When you do y to the 3rd times by y to the 2nd, you get y to the 5th. And then that right there is your final answer. Okay, on the next one, we have a 12 over 3. Okay, and that is just going to be a fraction that we have to simplify. And then we have an a to the 2nd over an a to the 6th. And then we have a b to the 3rd over just a b, and this is b to the 1st. And then we have a c to the 2nd over a c to the 5th. Okay, so 12 over 3, that fraction simplifies to a 4. So I'm just going to write that as 4 over 1. Okay. A to the 2nd over a to the 6th looks like this. Okay, so this a over a cancels to a 1. This a over a cancels to a 1. We are left with 1 over a to the 4th. Okay. And then we have a b to the 3rd, which is this, over a b to the first. So this cancels to a 1, which leaves us with b to the second over 1. Okay. And then we have a c to the second over a c to the fifth. And that is going to be 1 over c to the third. Okay, so now on the top, we have a 4 times a 1 times a b to the second. So that's going to be a 4b to the second. On the bottom, we have a 1 times a to the fourth times 1 times c to the third. So a to the fourth, c to the third. That is our final answer. Okay, so now I want to look at some other questions with you, like you're going to see on your test coming up for exponents. Okay, so for this first question, when you're looking at these, make sure you have your green card out and then really look at what's happening. In this situation, we have an x to the 10th times by n and x to the 11th, and these are like bases. So when we multiply like bases, we need to apply the product rule. The base stays the same, and then we add the exponents. So that becomes x to the 21, okay? For the next one, we have 4j to the fourth, and then that is being multiplied. So the 4 is being multiplied with the j to the fourth, and then that's being multiplied with a -6 that's being multiplied by a j to the third. This is just one big multiplication problem. So we can rearrange this so that we're multiplying in a different order. And I'm going to rearrange this so that the like bases are together. So 4 times -6 is -24. J to the fourth times j to the third is j to the, these are like bases, so we keep the base the same and we add the exponent. So that would be -24 j to the seventh. Okay. On the next one, this is a situation where we have a power raised to another power. So if you have a power raised to another power, you have to multiply. X to the sixth raised to the third is x to the 18th. Okay, question number 4. This too has to distribute to all of the factors of the product inside the parenthesis. So you have to remember that -4 has to be raised to the second power. A to the third becomes a to the sixth. W to the first becomes w to the second. And then y to the seventh becomes y to the 14th. Okay, so that gives us -4 times -4. That's what -4 to the second power is. That is a positive 16. So we have a positive 16, a to the sixth, w to the 2, y to the 19th. Okay, and then on the next one, we have x to the first, y to the second, raised to the third, and then x to the fourth, y to the first, raised to the second. So let's start with distributing this 3. So x to the 3, y to the 6th. Okay, now we're going to distribute this 2, which becomes x to the 8th, y to the 2nd. Now we need to multiply our like bases. So I'm just going to reorganize this, rearrange the order that I'm multiplying in so that I have like bases together. So x to the third times x to the 8th. We're going to use the product rule. We keep the base the same and we add the exponents. Y to the 6th times y to the 2nd is y to the 8th. Okay, let's look at a couple more questions and then I'm going to have you do a retake for me. Okay, so number 6, we have d to the 10th over d to the 4th. So that looks like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, d to the 10th over d to the 4th. Okay, so these all cancel to a 1, and we're left with d to the 6th on the top of the fraction. So you can write this as d to the 6th over 1, or that's the same thing as just d to the 6th. Okay, on the next one, we have 10 over 2. Sorry, let me erase that. That looks a little messy there. Okay, so we have a 10 over 2. We have an a to the 2nd over an a to the 8th. We have a b to the 5th over a b. We have a c to the 2nd over a c to the 6th. Okay, so let's just simplify these one at a time. So the 10 over 2, that simplifies to a 5, and we can write that as 5 over 1. Okay, the a to the 2nd over a to the 8th, that looks like this. Okay, so these two cancel, we're left with a 1 on top, and then we have an a to the 6th on the bottom. And then b to the 5th over b to the 1st is going to be b to the 4th on the top. And then c to the 2nd over c to the 6th. These cancel to a 1. So this is 1 over c to the 4th. Okay, and then this got a little messy right here. Let me just go ahead and fix this. This should be a b to the 4th. Okay. So now we just do top times top times top times top. So 5 times 1 times b to the 4th times 1 is 5b to the 4th. And then bottom times bottom times bottom times bottom gives us a to the 6th, c to the 4th. So that's our final answer. Okay. And then let's go ahead and look at the next one. The next one is dealing with negative exponents. So remember, when you are simplifying expressions, you have to make sure that you get rid of all of the negative exponents. So the way that you do that is you do the reciprocal, and if you cross the line, you have to change the sign. So y to the negative 2. In order to simplify this, we're going to put the y on the bottom, we change the exponent to positive, and then we put a 1 on top. So this becomes 1 over y to the 2nd. Okay, for this one right here, number 9, we have 2 to the 1st power over s to the negative 3. Okay, so the 2 to the 1st power, that doesn't need to move because that exponent is positive. But the s to the negative 3, it needs to move to the top of the fraction as s to the positive 3. So 2s to the positive 3. And then number 10, anything raised to the 0 power is just a 1. Okay, so that one should have been a 1. And then 2 more questions. These were a little bit more tricky. We have 1/2 times r to the 3rd raised to the 3rd. You had to remember that that 1/2 has to be raised to the 3rd power. And then r to the 3rd raised to the 3rd is r to the 9th. And then this right here, this s to the 0, that's really just a 1. And so then r to the 2nd power, it looks like this. So 1/2 times 1/2 times 1/2 should be 1/8. And then r to the 9th times r to the 2nd should be r to the 11th. So that's your final answer on that one. And then number 12, we have a 12 over a negative 4, so we need to simplify that. And then we have a t to the negative 6 over t to the negative 3. So 12 divided by negative 4 is a negative 3. So I'm just going to write that as negative 3 over 1. And then t to the negative 6 over t to the negative 3. To simplify this, the t to the negative 6 goes to the bottom as t to the positive 6. The t to the negative 3 goes to the top as t to the positive 3. And now we have t times t times t over t times t times t times t times t times t. These all cancel right here. We have 1 over t to the 3rd. So top times top, negative 3 times 1 is negative 3. Bottom times bottom, 1 times t to the 3rd is t to the 3rd. So that's your final answer. Okay, so now I want you to do the retake that I have on the paper for you, okay? So do the retake, hand it to Miss Higley when you're done, and I will correct them for you. If you're still struggling with this, please stay with me after school. I would love to help you anytime after school or even before school. Thanks, guys.